It's time for Come and Talk It with your host, Michael Cargill, brought to you by Texas Law Shield. Over the last decade, Michael has championed and supported the rights of law-abiding Texans to own and use firearms. He is the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, a veteran of the United States Army, and has achieved national exposure in such prestigious media outlets such as Forbes Magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. Cargill vigorously defends lawful gun ownership in this country without regard to party politics. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Good day, Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world. Let's praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. All right, so today I want to talk about, there's an incident that happened where these kids, teenagers, actually robbed an Uber Eats driver. I want to show that video, talk about that. Also want to talk about, the a 1-year-old was shot and killed by a Houston police officer. Well, no, I'm sorry. Let me correct that. A 1-year-old was shot, and the guy that the police officer was chasing was actually killed. Let me make sure I say that right. So Houston police officer were chasing a guy. I guess he was wanted for something, and this guy ended up jumping into a vehicle while a mother was actually putting gas in her car. Her 1-year-old kid was sitting in the back seat in a car seat. And the Houston police officer shot and killed the bad guy. And also, in doing so, he shot and injured the 1-year-old baby. He shot this baby in the head. And my question is, I've actually contacted the Houston Police Union because I would like for them to come on the show and tell me, should this police officer be charged with deadly conduct because he negligently shot an innocent person? And I want you to think about this. Before you call me and tell me I hate the police and send me little hate messages and all that kind of stuff. By the way, I do not care. I own more guns than most people, so I really don't care. But before you call me and you tell me, Michael, you're being mean to law enforcement, here's what I want you to think about. If someone's trying to break into my car and there's one of my neighbors that are outside walking their dog, and I shoot this person trying to break into my car, and while in the process of me shooting this person trying to break into my car, I actually shoot also that neighbor who's walking their dog. Should I be charged with deadly conduct? I want you to think about that. Because just because you're a police officer doesn't mean you get a pass. You don't get a pass. That's negligent if you shoot an innocent person. You should go to jail, don't drop the soap, and you should be sued as well. You should not get a pass. And I want you to call me and tell me that I'm wrong. Don't even think about it, because we're not gonna play this game today. I'm not gonna play with you. The bottom line is this officer should go to jail. So call me. My telephone number is 512-643-5483. That's 512-643-5483. The angry black guy in the red shirt. Call me and tell me what you got to say. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about this case of these teenagers, these teenage girls, and I don't know who your parents are. And I don't see us blaming cars for the problem. I don't see us blaming Uber for the problem. You know what? But whenever someone uses a gun, we always want to blame the gun as the problem. Well, these teenage girls tried to steal a car from a Uber Eats driver. This guy's trying to provide for his family. They tried to steal his vehicle, end up stealing his vehicle, tasing this guy, and then killing this guy by flipping the vehicle over while trying to steal it from him. End up killing him. That's when you pull your gun out and you send them straight to Jesus. That's what you do. Stop playing games with these people. You know what? By the time you call the police are only going to be there in enough time to fill out a report. I'm tired of this. Stop playing games with these people. If you can't raise your children, you can't raise your kids, you know what? We're going to send them to hell for you. That's what we should do. Stop playing games with these people. The police are not going to be there enough time to save you. The only time the police are going to get there is enough time to fill out a report. The game's over. I'm taking off the gloves. I'm sick and tired of this. What should I tell people that take my license to carry handgun course? What should I tell them? I'm sick and tired of telling people, let's take the upper hand. Let's be the better person. Let's try to diffuse the situation. I'm sick and tired of that. I've had enough. send them straight to hell where they belong because their parents don't have sense enough to raise good kids. Tell me I'm wrong. My telephone number is 512-643-5483. Call me and tell me. All right, you're on Come and Talk It. John, Gerald, Texas, what do you got to say?
Hey, Michael. I love your show, by the way, and I'm a CHL holder, and I'm an avid believer in not doing anything like what you're referring to. But the big thing is like the way you described it wasn't very detailed, and so for me, there's a lot of questions where, like, if I was on a jury actually prosecuting somebody, it would have to be a lot more detailed for me to be like, this person really screwed up. They were not doing the proper procedures. And, it could have went into that guy, like he killed him, right? It could have went into him and fragmented off a bone and went 5 degrees to the side and killed and hit the baby. So there's a little bit more on like the thought process on rather than just getting upset about it. And you know what? It is dangerous, and it's okay for danger to be around in life. And sometimes accidents happen, but if they're preventable, they're preventable. But again, the details aren't there to support, I guess, your zealousness.
All right, so you tell me, when something happens, doesn't matter where I am. I don't care where I am, whether I'm walking down the street, whether I'm getting gas, whether I'm in a store, grocery store, I'm in 7-Eleven on the corner doing whatever. You tell me if someone is doing something where they're committing aggravated kidnapping, murder, sexual assault, aggravated sexual assault, robbery, aggravated robbery, they're committing burglary, they're robbing someone, aggravated robbery, and if I stop this person, in the process of me stopping them, I stop them successfully, but then I accidentally shoot and injure someone else. You tell me that I should not be held responsible for that. That's what I thought.
It's a circumstantial thing where it's one of those things where, like, let's say you're in a convenience store, right? Okay. And you happen to go up and somebody pulls a gun on you, right? And you're able to, like, the gun's waved off of you, and you're able to draw your weapon and shoot, and you shoot twice, right? You shoot the bad guy one time, but then you shoot the clerk on accident. That's like standing because he dove to the side, and you can see it. It's one of those circumstantial things where nobody. I mean, you couldn't have predicted that.
No, but we call that deadly conduct. That's what we call that. We call that negligent. Well, yeah, that's being negligent. That's deadly conduct, and all that is a felony.
Well, but I call it reality. These things will happen if you're in that situation and stuff happens. Life happens.
All right, hold on a sec, John. We also call that deadly conduct. We call that a felony. We call that when you go to jail, don't drop the soap. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Peace. This is Maj Toure. You're listening to Come and Talk It Radio with Michael Cargill.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
Oh my God! Somebody just stole. She's stealing their car. She's stealing the car? Yeah, we called the cops. Call the cops. Call the cops.
All right, so we're looking at this is the Uber Eats carjacking where two young ladies who are teenagers actually steal a car, hijack a car from a Uber Eats driver. This guy is trying to provide for his family. I want to say they tased this guy. They jump into his vehicle, take his vehicle from him. He's hanging onto the vehicle for dear life. They drive down the street and ends up flipping the vehicle over, ejecting this guy from beside the vehicle, killing him. And, it's time to take the gloves off is what I'm saying. Enough is enough. People, you need to arm yourself because by the time the police get there, they're only going to be able to fill out a report. They're not going to be there to save you. It is up to you to protect yourself, protect your family, and protect your property and your way of life. Because this needs to stop. Enough is enough. And because parents don't have the sense enough to raise kids the right way. We don't blame the parents. We're not saying, look, what did you do? How do you not? These are teenagers. How do you not have a grasp on your teenagers and where they are and what they're doing, who they're hanging with? You are a sorry excuse for a parent. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to send them to hell for you because you can't take care of them. That's what I'm saying. Enough is enough. Take the gloves off. I'm sick and tired of it. How do I stand in front of my LTC class and tell my students, we need to diffuse the situation. We need to use conflict resolution. I feel terrible saying that. I really do. Enough is enough. But I will still do it. I will still stand there and say this. But on this radio show, we need to take the gloves off. Send them straight where they belong because the parents don't have sense enough to raise kids. And if you think I'm wrong, call me. My telephone number is 512-643-5483. That is 512-643-5483. Also in Houston, Texas, police officer chasing a bad guy. This bad guy jumps into a vehicle while the mother is pumping gas at the gas station. This police officer shoots and kills the bad guy and then shoots the 1-year-old child sitting in the back seat in a car seat.
In the head.
In the head. In the head. He should go to jail for deadly conduct and be sued. And the police department and the city should be sued. If you think I'm wrong, call me up, 512-643-5483. Because if I was in that same situation where someone was stealing my vehicle or stealing, someone else's vehicle, and I jumped in and I intersected in that, and I shot this bad guy, but in the process of me shooting the bad guy, I shoot an innocent person, I would go to jail, people. That's the bottom line. It is called deadly conduct, is what it's called, and I would be sued. Why should a police officer be held to such a covered state, a covered state of mind where they're protected? They should not be protected. You should know better. As a police officer, you should be held to a much higher standard. Much higher standard. You should not get a pass because you're a police officer. You should know better. That is called deadly conduct. If you don't know better, then who in the heck does? My telephone number is 512-643-5483. That's right. I'm the black guy in the red shirt who's angry right now, and I'm pissed off. Let me bring to the conversation my guest. I'm sorry. Rhonda, you there?
Yes, I'm here. How are you doing today?
Rhonda, I'm hot. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm going to bring it down a little bit.
It's okay.
All right, so Rhonda, I want to welcome you to the show. You're a gun rights activist, and Rhonda, please tell us where do you come from?
So my name is Rhonda Mary. I am a YouTuber and a Second Amendment advocate. And I basically try to inspire young women, particularly women in my demographic, to become armed, to learn more about the Second Amendment, and not only that, but advocate for it. Because that's something that it just hasn't been a big discussion around it for people that look like me. Unfortunately, it just has not. And so it's something that I've recently learned about after my own altercation. And that's why I've been spreading the message about it far and wide as I can.
And tell us about your altercation. What happened to make you decide, you know what, enough is enough. I need to get a gun and learn what the laws are and protect myself.
So actually, interestingly enough, I was in a hit and run / road rage type of altercation where at one point during that altercation, the guy got out of his car, walked up to my window, and me being a very just, typically like happy-go-lucky and in some aspects very sheltered, I'm thinking at this point, the guy would just walk up and ask for my insurance, even though, it was only moments before he was acting like he wasn't going to stop and was trying to run me off the road. He walked up to my car. He was so close to me, I could remember seeing the ring around his eyes. And, he was just cursing me because he didn't like the way I was driving on the road. And he eventually walked away from my car. But in that moment, I didn't know what could happen. It could have went anyway. And I remember being on the phone with my friend at that time. I had him on a car phone, and I was just telling him, like, if something happens to me, because this was on a Sunday, my parents were at church. I was headed to have brunch with my girlfriends. And I just remember telling my friend on the phone, like, just tell my mom I was on the side of the road, let her know what happened. And that was just the whole entire situation, from him trying to, basically drive me off the road, going like over 70 miles per hour up until him walking to my car. Was just a very scary situation that could have went badly. And I just remember when I was making a police report, it was a Black female officer, and she was like, "You didn't have a gun?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "I would have said I feared for my life," right? And now looking back, that absolutely was not the right time to use my firearm. That would have been a perfect time to de-escalate. There are things that I could have done differently, but these are all things that I've learned now that I've taken it upon myself to get trained and to learn more about the ways that the avenues I can take to protect myself in a situation like that.
All right. So, and tell us, so what do you do now? So do you teach classes? Tell me, what do you do?
So basically, I'm a YouTuber, so I help people like all over the country stay abreast on what's going on with different legislation and things like that. I talk about some of like the safety aspects of it. Basically like an influencer. I have women from all over the country that email me, DM me about linking them up, helping them connect with trainers and people that do gun advocacy in their areas. So basically, I would say in a lot of regards, I'm a 2A influencer.
Okay. And so you also have a radio show, right?
No, just I have my YouTube.
You do? Okay. All right. So tell me, what do you think about universal background checks? You've heard about that?
Yes, I have heard about that. I just don't trust a government that has not been able to win the drug war that they started, that we know resulted in a lot of people being in prison. I just don't have faith that, whatever they have up their sleeve or all of these overreaching things that they want to do, that they can accomplish. I just have not seen anything from the government that would give me faith in this system of if they remove guns from good people like me that's not out to hurt anybody, or even making it harder for people like me that aren't out to hurt anybody. Most we want to do is just protect ourselves. I just don't see that that's the best solution, particularly when you can see, for example, tying it back to the drug war. When you have people that want to commit crime, particularly violent crime and things like this, a lot of the punishment is on the back end, not the front end. If someone wants to break a law, they're going to do so, particularly when it comes to being violent. People are not just, regular everyday people like me are not violent people. It doesn't matter what kind of gun we own, how much, what type of mag capacity it has, or anything else. It's not going to make me a violent person just by owning this tool alone. So I think instead of talking about these, universal background checks, we really need to talk about the root causes of violence.
All right, we're talking with Rhonda Mary. Rhonda Mary is a gun rights activist. She's also a YouTuber. We're talking about gun rights. We're talking about different shootings that have happened around the country. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Hey, this is AWR Hawkins of Breitbart News, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs but you say something incriminating on your own without being questioned, those statements can and will be used against you because you're not being interrogated. You're just starting to spout off. This is why it's imperative that you know your rights.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
That's right. We're talking about activism. We're talking about gun activism. We're talking about black families. We're talking about no-knock raids. We're talking about constitutional carry. You know, should the black community get involved in constitutional carry? We're talking about some gun-related homicides. Talking about that Uber driver who was murdered by teenage girls. We're talking about a Houston police officer who shot a 1-year-old baby in the head while trying to shoot a bad guy. Should he be charged with deadly conduct? Should he or should he not? Should he get a pass? Is it okay? Do things happen? Oops, my bad. I shot your 1-year-old kid. Oops, my bad. Nothing to see here. Let's move along. She was just ignored. Let it go. That's what we're talking about. We also have on Skype, Rhonda Mary. She's a gun rights activist. And Rhonda, where do you hail from? Where are you from? You in Maryland, D.C., Washington?
I'm in Mississippi.
Mississippi. Oh,
Yep.
shoot. Now, Mississippi. Oh, Lord have mercy. All right. So, yeah, when I go through Mississippi, I'm not going to lie to you, Rhonda. I go through Mississippi. I go there during the daytime. I don't drive through Mississippi at night.
Oh, please stop.
Yeah, I don't fool around, boy. We hammer down. We go through that during the daytime. I treat it like a sundown town.
Way too many movies.
Way too many movies. It's okay now.
Let me tell you.
That's what I thought.
Hold on. Let me tell you, I've had no problems. Every time I see, I'm just gonna keep it real. Every time I see black people getting whooped on, whether it's by the police or whoever, it's somewhere in California, New York. You don't see that. You don't see videos of us floating around having any problems. I don't care if that's because everybody, is chill. Everybody's like, it's like a Southern hospitality thing. People mind their business. It's a mix of all of that. But
here's what. I'm gonna explain to you. Here's what I think. This is just my personal opinion. In Mississippi, in the South, who likes you, who don't like you. The problem is when you're in New York, you're in California, the people who you think like you really don't like you, and they pretend like they like you. But down in the South, there's a clear understanding. I don't like you. I don't like your people. I don't like where you come from. I don't like nothing about you. And there's an understanding about that. And I respect that gangster. You know what I'm saying? I respect that gangster right there.
Even with that, I think it's more, rare than people would like to believe. Typically in more like casual spaces, people are just chill and minding their business.
Right.
So it's kind of like, as long as you stay on your yard, I'll stay on my type thing,
Well, let me bring in my son who's from the UK. So what do you think?
Hey, how's it going? Mississippi is a place I've never been to, but I am quite eager to go there. But I have heard a ton of quite scary stories about people traveling through there. So I have to admit, I am in Michael's boat. I think who knows? Maybe we can drive through together. We should go on a road trip.
You know what? You scare me because if we get pulled out police, you go off. There's like wait, hold on. His eyes changed, and then he gets tunnel vision. And he starts like going in on it. And I'm like, no, you gonna get us both killed.
We have the best food, and as long as you're just a decent person, like, just don't be a jerk to people, and you will generally be good. I'm telling you, every single time I travel to visit friends, I encounter some of the worst, meanest people, and then it always has to click. I have to remember, like, dang, Rhonda, like, you're not in the South anymore. because I meet the meanest people when I travel elsewhere, when I travel to bigger cities, you know, when I travel to more liberal cities and stuff like that, more liberal states.
Like this is like the New York and LA. You kind of find that people are a little more abrasive.
Yes.
Now, do you know what I put that to? I feel that's because of gun ownership, right? I feel it's because when you have, like in Texas, when you know that pretty much everyone has a gun in their car, right? And you know, tons of people are carrying. I feel like people are more like you can't go off on people like you can in New York. Because in New York, you can do what you want. You know that person hasn't got a gun. Like, what are you gonna do? Do I spray me with bear mace?
Right. When I go to New York, DC, Philly, even in Cali, like it's just been a different. It's like sometimes I have to, cause my immediate reaction is to sometimes think like that's rude. Like, why would you act like that? And then I have to remember, like, y'all don't even be knowing y'all rude. So I just have to, you know, come back home. That's kind of how it is.
Did you know that Mississippi has one of the highest homicide rates in the country?
I did not know that.
See, that's Zach. Zach's a lover, so you know Zach. And see, Zach loves women from all around the world.
I don't want you to get murdered. Okay?
That's right. He wants you to be safe.
I think mostly just like in other areas, a lot of times when you look at the numbers and the breakdowns of homicide, a lot of that is done by recidivist, right? That's usually done where you have like a criminal element, but you know, and yes, do you have these random shootings? Do you have people that'll, you know, maybe just wanting to go to the gas station or go to the grocery store that may be robbed or something like that? Yes, right. But a lot of times what we see is the people going in and out of the prison systems for things like homicide and criminal behavior. It's a very high recidivism rate. So I'm not walking around like every single day in fear for my life, even though, you know, like I said, I've taken steps to protect myself, but I'm not living in some bubble of just being scared of everybody.
Right. And then go ahead.
Most of the murders happen in the city of Jackson.
Oh, nasty Jackson. Yeah, that's true. I believe that.
And so what happens very similar to like what you'll see in like Chicago, what you'll see in different parts of New York and things like that, where you have a high population of Black people, you do have those higher homicide rates. But we also need to talk about how in these areas, you also typically have higher levels of gun control, right? And then you also have this narrative, like with me, that good people shouldn't arm themselves. So like I said, when you have this criminal element, especially amongst people that are recidivist, you don't have the good people knowing, okay, guns aren't just for gangsters, school shooters, and white supremacists. People that look like me, you can also arm yourself, because what happens is if people start to know that other people are armed, we're not going to play with you, we're ready to protect ourselves, they're going to think twice about, do I really want to run in this person's spot and try to commit this crime? No, most criminals are looking for the most vulnerable victims off top. And so those victims just happen to be in the inner cities. They aren't in the rural areas.
Yeah, something we like to say on the show is that, something we like to say on the show is that more guns equals less crime.
Right. Right. And so if you go into a city and the only people that have guns are the people committing the crimes, you're going to see that reflected in the homicide rate and in the prison population.
Yeah, that's a problem.
All right. So
it's absolutely a problem.
So Rhonda, so let's talk about no-knock raids. You know, what are your thoughts about that, like the Breonna Taylor shooting?
I'm absolutely 100% against no knock raids. I pretty much consider myself a constitutionalist. I believe in the right to privacy. I believe that a officer should have a warrant before they can just enter your home. I believe that they should have to knock and make you aware that they're getting ready to enter your home. And also, let's also have a little bit of conversation about this lazy police work. You should, I believe you should have enough to build a case where you shouldn't even have to run in nobody's spot unannounced. Why? What is this? Oh, we got to just catch them in this one particular moment because this is going to be the end all be all for our case. Like, that doesn't sound like good police work to me. So I feel like you should have enough that whatever you're trying to walk into their home, unless somebody's life is in imminent danger and they're being held hostage within that home. But this whole, oh, let me go in here to find some drugs. Like, I'm not a fan of the drug war. It's been one of the biggest failures, of the government. A lot of money spent, a lot of money wasted. They haven't been able to get drugs off the streets, just like I don't believe or have faith that they will be able to get guns off the streets. You know what I mean? So I absolutely find no knock warrants problematic.
All right. Just so you know, I call in numbers 512-643-5483. That's 512-643-5483. Come and talk it and give us a call and let's talk to Rhonda and ask Rhonda some questions that you have of her. All right. So Rhonda, tell me what your thoughts about constitutional carry. You say you're a constitutionalist. So what about constitutional carry? Do you support that?
I do support constitutional carry. Basically what I said earlier, it's no amount of ammunition or it's no amount of weaponry that's going to turn me into some crazed psycho that walks into a grocery store and hurts people. It's not going to happen. Um, what we do have to be careful of is, I do understand that trauma and trauma related to violence and people being hurt with guns, that is a real thing. And so we do want to be empathetic to people that have experienced that. I've experienced that myself. I've had two people close to me, one that was shot and one that was killed due to simple negligence. That's why I think things like teaching gun safety is so important, and you would see some of the rates of violence as relates to guns or incidents as relates to guns drop drastically just by simple gun safety. But also we do have to remember that yes, we're also in a time where we do unfortunately have a lot of people dealing with mental issues, and that's where the community aspect comes in at. That's where doctors or therapists being able to have these conversations early without being overreaching or judgmental. Also, we have nonprofit organizations that work with people, and as in regards to trying to help veterans, trying to help people that may be suicidal and things like that.
All right, so we're talking with Rhonda Mary. She's a gun rights activist out of Mississippi. We're talking about gun rights for women, gun rights for men, gun rights for everybody. We're talking about no-knock raids, talking about constitutional carry. We're talking about an Uber driver murdered by teenage girls. Talking about the Houston police officer who shot a 1-year-old baby sitting in a car seat in the vehicle while trying to shoot the bad guy. And also, I want to ask Rhonda, we come back from the break, what about those people that say, they were a good guy until they walked into the store and committed that crime. So how do we prevent that? Can we regulate crazy? Can we, what do we say about Chicago? Chicago, there's so much crime in Chicago. So can we, what do we do about other states, people getting those guns from other places? Going to talk about that and more. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Coleon Noir, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
Hello, my name is Edwin Walker. I'm an independent program attorney with Texas Law Shield. I want to talk to you today about an issue that we see on a daily basis. In fact, you yourself will encounter it on a daily basis, and that is the subject of road rage. I am sure that you have all seen road rage. You may have actually been involved in a road rage incident. Now, if you're a responsible gun owner, I'm going to give you a few words of advice on how to react when you find yourself in one of these unfortunate road rage incidents. While on the roadways, we all observe something that makes us upset. Whether it's poor driving, unsafe driving, or just simply somebody being very discourteous. By all means, you should restrain yourself from engaging that person and telling them how bad their actions were, because this can be perceived as an act of road rage. If you're a lawful gun owner, you have a firearm in your vehicle, you do not want to be viewed as the aggressor in a road rage situation. Now, with regard to a situation where an individual has chosen to rage against you, and you are the actual victim of the road rage, if you and the other individuals are still in their automobiles, do not use your firearm to respond to any of the rager's activities. This is because law enforcement views the fact that you're both still safely in your metal boxes as removing any threat of immediacy that you may be harmed. So please, if you have a gun, somebody is raging against you, forget you have a gun. Don't display it, don't brandish it, don't show it, don't point it, and for God's sake, don't fire it. This could result in a lot of trouble for you. Now let's look at a situation where a road rage incident has escalated. It has escalated to the point where one of the participants has actually gotten out of their vehicle. We recommend that you stay in your vehicle at all times. Do not exit your vehicle, because the person who exits their vehicle is going to be looked at as the aggressor. If the other individual has exited their vehicle, and they are not in contact with your vehicle, and they do not have a weapon, then do not feel that you can display your weapon in an act of self-defense. People are allowed to just simply stand there and scream at you, scream whatever they want. Until they make a demonstrative effort to try to harm you, there is no immediate threat that would justify displaying or shooting or brandishing your firearm. Now, in the event that the person shows their own weapon, in particular a firearm, the existence of their weapon would give you reasonable belief that there was an immediate threat of harm that would justify an act of force or deadly force.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
All right, we're talking with Rhonda Mary, gun rights activist, a YouTuber. And Rhonda was talking to us about, gun rights. She's out of Mississippi. And so we've been going around the country and talking with gun rights activists all around this nation, because I want people to know that, some people think, here we are in Texas and Austin. They're like, oh, you're the only black guy that talks about gun stuff. Well, that's not true. There are a lot of people around this country that talk about guns. They're talking about the Second Amendment. And I want to introduce you to those people. We've gone to Florida. We've gone to Georgia. We've been in, Alabama. We've gone to Maryland. We've gone to Washington, D.C. We've gone to Philadelphia. We're traveling around the world, around the country, I should say, and introduce you to, gun rights activists that are out there. So we're talking with Rhonda Mary. And Rhonda, so tell me, what do we say to people that say, in Chicago, in Chicago, there's a lot of crime happening in Chicago. So what do we do with those people that are, committing crimes in Chicago, because there's a lot going on there?
We cannot have a conversation about violence without talking about some of the root causes of that violence. First of all, when you have really strict gun laws that prevent good people from being able to protect themselves, and you have an area where criminals know and are going to be on the attack for the most vulnerable population, when you have certain areas that stifle the economy of these areas, when you have, particularly like we just came out of basically just came out of a lockdown, but we could see the reasons why during a COVID lockdown, when you put half of the country out of work, that will result in it. And we know that the strictest lockdowns were in more liberal areas. So it only makes sense that in these areas, you will also see crime skyrocket after you put half of the country out of work and things like this, mental health issues. And it's a lot that goes into why people perpetuate violence. I think that a couple of things we do is, first of all, talk about some of those issues, but as well as making sure that we are 100%, I am 100% on board for punishing and locking away anybody that kills or hurts anyone unjustly, particularly with a firearm. And I don't even think it matters, right? A tool is a tool. I think maybe your son will know this. I think this is somewhere in the UK. They're talking about banning pepper spray now or something like that. And so I just also don't believe that a lot of these politicians have any real interest on using this as a tactic to save lives. I think it's more about a control thing, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't just be sitting here talking about the tool. We would be talking about some of the other avenues that lead to criminality and violence.
Son?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with a lot of the things you're saying there. Like namely about the bans, especially with regard to after every mass shooting, it appears that there's a load of like legislation brought on the books, and none of them seem to actually directly address like any of the root causes of like gun violence in this country, like whether that be the mental health side, like you say, or or just gang violence and like criminal behavior. So yeah, I'm very kind of skeptical that more legislation is going to like solve the problem. I mean, I think something that we haven't talked about today is the fact that we're like 2 months into the Biden presidency and we've already had like 3 mass shootings or something like that. Yeah. Do you have any idea of the numbers?
Oh yeah, it's because the media, what they do is and I forgot my notes. There's someone that listens to the show that sends me newspaper clippings all the time, and they sent me some stuff on suicide, and I forgot to bring that with me. And I'll have to talk about this next Sunday. But, the media will always discuss, shootings. They're talking about, whenever there's a shooting, they want to relate it to mass shooting, and they want to say mass shooting depending on who the person is doing the shooting. That's really important. It depends on who the person is actually doing the shooting. And they relate it to a mass shooting. But then when it comes to like suicides, like last year, 2020, the pandemic, the country shut down. There were a lot of people that committed suicide in this country. But the media, they won't discuss that. They won't discuss those numbers, except to bring it up when it's time to relate it to guns. If someone used a gun to kill themselves, then they'll bring those numbers up. But until then, they won't discuss it, because I asked them, why won't you discuss suicides and how do we prevent suicide? Because the reason of the suicides is because of the pandemic, because the country shut down and we took away people's ability to go to church and fellowship with, in their church, relate to whoever they can relate to. We took all that away from them. And so all people literally sat at home by themselves, depressed and committed suicide.
Yeah, for sure.
And they won't discuss that and the root cause of that issue. But when there's a gun involved, they want to bring up the gun.
Yeah, and the other good thing about with this mass shooting stuff is like whenever you look at if you look at any of the school shooters, something that the media never seem to talk about is that I haven't done any ton of research on this, but the cursory like lookup that I've done, it appears that like every school shooter is on antidepressant drugs. It's like all those kids who do school shootings, they're all kids who are on like Ritalin. They all have they're all getting ADHD medication. They're all on Xans. They're all on antidepressants, and that seems to be the driving factor. Like there seems to be a common thread between all of these mass shootings. That they're all weird kids who've been drugged up their entire life, and then something flips in their head and they think, right, let's light up a classroom.
Right, and people think that I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rhonda.
But believe it or not, I think that we're going to get to a point where they even push that. I don't know if y'all have noticed this, but it almost seems as recently it's become popular for people to brag or boast about being mentally ill. Like it's the new thing to do. I'm not saying that, people just can't get therapy for whatever reasons that we deal with, stress and things like that. But even this, you know, just out the gate way that therapists and even doctors are like just want to put people on medicine. You know what I mean?
I think that as well. I think there's this massive movement with mental health, and although like I definitely like the objectives to it, I think it's also kind of harmful in a way because it makes everybody wants to be a victim. Everyone wants to be someone who's depressed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
another thing,
far away.
I'm sorry. Another thing that's going to happen is with this, I can't even remember which bill it was, but it was one of the bills where you're supposed to have someone from your state do this interview. The Secretary of, it's not the Secretary of State, Attorney General or something, that's supposed to basically, with you along with a doctor or physician, decide if you are able to protect yourself, right? And what are gonna be the key measures between somebody that's like, look, I'm a veteran and I served and I just need a little bit of help, but I'm not suicidal. I'm certainly not crazy or anything else y'all are trying to paint me as. But if this doctor is saying, well, as long as I'm prescribing you this drug, you don't need that gun, hand it over, give me that. Like what type of precedent are we setting, and where do we draw the line as far as, you know, because even my sister is a gun owner. So is her husband. Her husband works away offshore. He's gone for weeks and weeks at a time. And she went through a small stint of depression postpartum after the baby. Yeah. Do I get to tell her that even though I know your husband is gone away, you live back in this rural area, you know, down this road by yourself, you don't deserve to protect yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think the mental health issue is definitely like very, very, very difficult. But I think what's definitely clear is that all the legislation that seems to get proposed to kind of mitigate these the mental health issue always seems to miss. They always say, you know, there's like a 48-hour waiting period, or you can't purchase many guns in this period of time, this kind of thing. And none of them seem to have any kind of real like objectives to actually solve the real world problems that we actually face with regards to, you know, mass shootings and that kind of violent crime, you know.
And another thing that we don't really talk about a lot is that I'm gonna lean in the mic and say this a little bit better because I want this to be clear. Murder is already a crime. Just for anybody listening that may not have known that. Okay? Murder is a crime. It's already on the books. It's against the law. You just can't casually going around killing people just because you feel like it. So do we really believe that somebody as evil, as disgusting, as nefarious as a person that would kill somebody unjustly without a cause, do we really think they give a crap about a background check?
Yeah.
Really?
Or a magazine ban.
Or a magazine ban?
All right, we're talking with Rhonda Mary. She's a gun rights activist out of Mississippi, and she's also a YouTuber. We're talking about gun rights. We're talking about no-knock raids, constitutional carry, gun-related homicides, talking about the Uber driver, talking about Houston, Texas. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Jack Jones here, and I get my gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. after 12 years, I was only discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Hello, friends and neighbors in Mason and surrounding counties. Attention, be a victor, not a victim. We will be having a beginner's concealed handgun class this coming Wednesday, October 26th, at Keller's Riverside Store on the beautiful Llano River. Classes start at 8:30 a.m. This is an all-day event. We will attempt to teach you all the necessary information you need to obtain your CHL, and hopefully when you can use your weapon to defend yourself if the need arises. We also will give you your handgun proficiency test as needed to get your license. The cost for the course is $100. We accept cash, check, credit cards, gold and silver, and used guns. For information or to sign up, call Crockett Keller, 325-347-0055. If you are a socialist liberal and or voted for the current campaigner-in-chief, please do not take this class. You have already proven that you cannot make a knowledgeable and prudent decision as required under the law. Also, if you are a non-Christian Arab or Muslim, I will not teach you the class. Once again, with no shame, I am Crockett Keller, 325-347-0055. Thank you, and God bless America.
Okay.
I love that guy.
No. You cannot do that. Okay. So it's as a business you can do that. You can say I'm not going to teach to some people who's this religion, all that good kind of stuff. You can actually do that, but is that really the right thing to do?
Yes.
Should you really discriminate against someone because of their religion?
Okay. As someone who's grown up in Europe,
we actually have a law against that.
As someone who's grown,
by the way,
regardless of whether law, I'm just going to say this. As someone who's grown up in Europe, somebody's growing up in Europe, I think that Islam poses a massive threat to Western society. So
No.
Okay, this guy, I'm in full in his. I support
Let's look
him
at the
fully.
population. I want you to Google this because we're going to come back to this. I want you to Google how many Muslims we have in the world.
Too many.
How many Catholics do we have in the world? How many Christians do we have in the world? I want you to Google that.
I think
and give me some numbers.
Okay.
Muslims are 1.8 billion.
There
Okay.
you go. They're the biggest religion, right?
And then
Catholics. Let's see. What do you think it is, Mike?
I don't know. I think there are more Christians than anything.
There are 1.3 billion Catholics, and there are 2.3 billion Christians.
Oh, so more Christians than anything.
Yep.
Well,
what's your point?
My
I know what the point you're getting at, but go on, make the point.
The point is, people, that you cannot discriminate against someone who just because of their religion.
Yeah.
And by the way, there are a lot fewer Muslims in this country than there are Christians, and Christians are probably responsible for more murders and killings than anyone.
Yeah, but
so
like
if anyone's going to discriminate against someone, they're probably going to discriminate against you because you're a Christian.
My way of rationalizing is I say, look, not all terrorists are Muslim, but all terrorists not all terrorists are Muslim. No, sorry, not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslim. That's sorry, and I'm saying I'm from Europe. If again, and the phone number, your phone number is 512-643-5483.
But you know,
but I'm from Europe, and I know better than you.
But you know, if you really look at the texts,
okay,
the Book of Islam is quite violent, and they speak of doing violence upon the non-believers, whereas
The Book of Islam is
the
similar to the
Christian
Bible.
the Bible, Jesus, which overwrites the Old Testament,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus says, "Turn the other cheek."
A better way to rationalize it is this, right? Is take ISIS, right? So imagine you live in Iraq and you are a family man and you just live in Iraq, you're an Iraqi citizen, right? Now imagine you've just got rid of Saddam and all of the bad stuff that he did, and you have ISIS roll up the next day, right? The Middle East just welcomed ISIS in. They said, yeah, just get the flag up. We'll support you. We'll come fight with you as well, right? So doesn't it say something about their culture that when ISIS starts throwing gays off buildings and making women wear hijabs and beheading people and burning people and all this stuff, they said, oh, this is brilliant. And it's because
what do you say to the people like the KKK who do everything in the name of God and religion and burn a cross in someone's front yard?
Yeah. So the way I can differentiate it is this: is that the scriptures of Islam is very explicit about violence towards between non-believers, right? Whereas under Christianity, in Christianity, and I'm not massively sure of the scripture here, but in Christianity, it's of the belief that everyone is made in the image of God and has the ability to redeem themselves. Whereas under Islam, it's very much not like that. You're either a believer or you're a non-believer. If you're a non-believer, then you have absolutely no rights, and if you're a woman, you're slightly above that, and if you're a man, you're at the top.
If you are a true Christian,
yes,
it is not right to discriminate against someone because of their religion. That is not a true Christian.
Like I said, the difference between me and you is you haven't lived in Europe. And what we can do is
so in Europe is different.
That doesn't make it different.
It absolutely does. Like, look, if you want to fast forward,
because in Europe they're a bunch of haters.
No. When you have people being ran over in the street, like I walked down London Bridge the day after there was a terrorist attack there, and I literally saw the blood on the pavement. There was like a line where they just gone with like a pressure washer and just pressure wash the blood.
Maybe
off the
because
streets,
you guys
right?
are mistreating the Muslim community in Europe.
In what way?
Because you're Europeans and you tend to be nasty.
Absolutely not. The Muslims are the ones who don't want to assimilate in Europe. Like go to France, for example. There's whole cities. In fact, most of East London is pretty much a no-go zone.
Right. Well, probably because you're the way you're treating people.
No,
in the UK.
Absolutely not. Like you have to understand. I was a liberal. Like when I came to London, I was very much a liberal. Like, oh, we're a one and all this kind of stuff
for all of a year.
For all of a year, and then I came face to face with them. I was like, these guys are absolutely crazy.
All right.
This conversation, can I add something?
Oh, please do.
Provide some levity.
This conversation sounds as absolutely ridiculous as somebody trying to blame all mass shootings on gun owners.
Elaborate.
It sounds completely ridiculous.
So I'll let you have your piece, but I will quickly differentiate the difference. There is that in one thing we're talking about a religion which has scripture, which has been around for 1400 years, and another one is just a social phenomenon which pretty much only started after Columbine. So perhaps you could elaborate on your position and probably just flesh the argument out, because I don't agree with that whatsoever.
The same way gun owners be like, oh, if gun owners were perpetuating all these crimes, well, it's millions of gun owners, so there would be tons of more deaths. It's the same exact thing. It's no different. All this idea that all Muslims, like, how can we sit here and say all gun owners are not violent people, and then turn around and say, oh, but people from all this religion are like,
let me clarify. I didn't say that. I said not all Muslims are terrorists. I don't believe that all Muslims are terrorists, right?
But you said all terrorists are Muslims.
All terrorists are Muslim, yeah. By and large, like if you look, let's take the Pulse shooting. We had what 150 people died in the Pulse shooting, and then we got 9/11 as well. It's another 3K there.
Las Vegas.
Yeah, no, but like my point is, if you get all of the deaths, and you compare Islamic terror, especially Islamic terror around the world, there's an Islamic terrorist attack every single day. No, but like there's Islamic terror. Go on right now. Go on religionofpeace.org. And it lists since 9/11 of every terrorist attack that's been executed by Muslims, right?
Yeah, not every Muslim is a terrorist or a bad person.
Correct.
But the Book of Islam promotes these things. Even if the people don't do these violent acts, the books actually...
I disagree.
No?
I disagree.
It's written in scripture, so I don't know what you're going to disagree with. An easy way to think about it like this is where you can rationalize it, and this is the way this is why I try and get like liberals on side. I say this, right? If we imagine we have 3 islands, right, and we give one island like the Bible, and we give one island like the Polycanon, and we give one island the Quran, right? And we put 100 people on each island, and we come back in 10,000 years, right? If the Christian island was living like ISIS, we go, hey, something's gone wrong here, right? Like that we can't really draw parallels between the Bible and the outcome of ISIS. Whereas under Islam, it's very, very plausible. You can go, okay, if this island just turned into 10,000 years later, they have ISIS on the island because they're oppressing women, killing gays, list all the stuff that ISIS do.
You sound just as bad as a white liberal that does not want black people to have guns, because they'll be like, oh, well, they commit the most crimes, so none of them should have guns because, 13%.
I'm not saying that, but let's be honest. Like black people occupy 13% of the population, and we're well over half the murders. So I'm not agreeing with that statement whatsoever. But I am saying
let her finish. Let her finish.
So now would you say, well, no. I wouldn't teach a black person how to arm themselves, because those black folks, they kill each other. Why would I do that? Why would I?
Well, in Chicago, that might actually be a wise shout, to be honest with you. I mean, I hate to be like controversial, but that's probably a wise shout in certain parts of America. But again, when it comes
get him, Rhonda.
It's probably a what? I couldn't understand what you said.
I was making a humorous joke, but I was just saying that not teaching certain people to use firearms. I said in Chicago that probably would be a wise shout. I mean, like I said before, homicides in America, the black people occupy 13% of the population, but we exceed 50% of all homicides.
And this is a type of.
I know I'm not drawing a conclusion saying we need to ban black people from access to firearms. But I'm saying that is clearly a problem, and you raised that argument in your rebuttal to me. So I'm saying that there is clear a discrepancy.
I think it sounds ridiculous. You cannot blame an entire population of people, or even allege that an entire population of people, I don't care whether we're talking about religion, skin color, gun ownership, I don't care what demographic we're talking about. You cannot blame an entire demographic.
You can with religion. Yes, you can with religion. Religion is different to ethnicity. I'm not saying...
we are not...
It's still a demographic of people. You're trying to pick and choose.
No, I'm saying, what I'm saying is just go ahead and read a Quran. Go and read a Quran, and then we'll have this discussion again next week. Come back next week, just have a quick skim read, and then next week we'll have this chat again. How about that?
Well, it's not the people who are Muslim that are the problem. It is the book that they follow. Most of the people who are of the Islamic faith do not take to heart that scripture and those parts that say, cut the heads off the infidel. They realize, hey, that's some stuff that I'm not willing to do. But the book clearly states these things, and the people
we don't have genocide and rape and
no.
They're being hypocritical. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because they both carry guns, and so if something happens, they have no problems in pulling out their gun, defend themselves, and cutting off the head of the infidel.
Yeah, I'm not gonna cut somebody's head off because they're a different religion. But if they try and hurt me or the people that I love, then I'm not so much like Jesus that I can turn the other cheek and watch the people I love get
killed.
raped or murdered.
But I would expect a Muslim to have the same standards as you. If a white person was attacking a Muslim family, 100% he should use his firearms rights to defend his family. 100%.
Yep.
But we can't deny that scripture is scripture.
Yeah, there's a book that these people who follow the faith follow, and this book has some heinous stuff in it.
All right, we're talking with Rhonda Merrick, gun rights activist. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about Jen Psaki says Biden will sign a gun control executive order. Going to talk about the Secret Service inserted itself into a case of Hunter Biden's gun. We're going to talk about Biden administration urges Supreme Court to let cops enter homes and seize guns without a warrant. We're also going to talk about a gunman ambushes a National Guard vaccine convoy in Texas. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Brittany Glaze, and I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean, or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you, without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings, because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs, but you say something incriminating on your own without being questioned, those statements can and will be used against you, because you're not being interrogated, you're just starting to spout off. This is why it's imperative that you know your rights, and you shouldn't rely on the police to read them to you. Affirmatively invoke your rights. Say, I'm invoking my right to remain silent, and my right to my attorney. Once you do that, the police legally shouldn't continue questioning you without your attorney present. But remember, there's a second part to this equation. After invoking your rights, you must exercise those rights. That means you have to keep your mouth closed. Protect yourself. Don't let the legal system take advantage of you after an incident. And Law Shield members, if you've been involved in a self-defense incident, remember to call the emergency hotline and speak with your independent program attorney.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back and we're talking about, let's see, Jen Psaki says Joe Biden will sign a gun control executive order. And so let's read and see what this is all about. So basically, the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, on Friday confirmed that President Biden intends to sign executive orders on gun control. Psaki replied yes to a journalist's question about whether reporters should be expecting executive orders from the president on gun measures. But she said the timing was unclear due to a review process. When the president was the vice president in the Obama-Biden administration, he helped put in place 23 executive actions to combat gun violence. It's one of the levers that we can use, Psaki said at her daily press briefing. The new gun control push by Democrats followed the murders on Monday of 10 people at Boulder, Colorado, a grocery store last week. A gunman killed 8 at Atlanta area massage parlors. And the White House is considering orders to require background checks for ghost guns that can be manufactured at home without serial numbers, and a requirement that local cops be notified if someone falls on FBI background check to buy a gun from a registered dealer, according to recent reports. And you say we should pass all these bills.
Yeah. So to preface this, I am the most hardcore.
And Rhonda, by the way, Rhonda, we're ready to slap him around some more. All right, go ahead.
So I'm the most hardcore gun supporter in the world, but the problem I find with like in America is that you actually don't have gun rights anymore. You just have access to guns. You don't have any gun rights. You've lost those. You lost them a long time ago. To be honest, you lost it in the 30s when you gave up your automatic weapons. So my view now is like let's just pass it. Let's just pass all this legislation and then just see where the chips fall. Because I'm not going to hand my gun in. If they ban AR-15s, I'm not going to hand my gun to anybody. I'll sit on my porch with my AR with a set of green tips in there and my level 4 armor. And if the police want to come and take it, they can eat lead.
And some tells me he will do this.
No, I've already done it once before, and I'm more than happy to do it again. And I think that's the way we actually go about getting our gun rights back now, is we just say, okay, fine, pass all the laws you want, and then we'll just cross all the bridges that we need to cross when we need to. Do you know what I mean?
Rhonda? Rhonda's like, I don't even know what to say to that. I don't know where to go from there.
I have a little bit of hope. I have a little bit of hope.
Why?
That maybe.
Why?
I think the last little bit of hope I have is that you did have people that were willing to, just not on the basis of exactly what was going on and what the reason was for, but that you had people that were willing to go down to the Capitol on January 6th. Also, I do believe that there's this bubbling up of people being frustrated because of the havoc and the chaos that the lockdowns cause. There's just this news that came out that Biden is thinking about doing like vaccine passports and stuff like that. So I think we're getting to a breaking point where I think we're at we're right before we go over the hump of if we know if people really gonna be about it or not about it. But I've already made up I'm like literally I have on my shirt. This is my shirt, y'all. It says anti-status on here. I'm already to the point where
okay. We have something in common then, huh?
I've already made up my mind that I'm not turning up in anything. But we're now really gonna see, for all the blue thin liners, we're really gonna see where y'all friends lay on these issues when it comes to if these police are gonna enforce this unconstitutional BS. Yeah. We saw a lot of them enforcing and roughing up people for not wearing masks. So, I think we're like right before we start going over the hump of which way this is gonna go.
Yeah, I mean, nothing irritates me more than driving. Like, this is why I stopped supporting Trump, was because I would drive around on the highway and I'd see all these guys in their big ass trucks and they would have a Trump flag and they would have a "Don't Tread on Me" flag, and then under that they'd have a thin blue line flag. And it's like it's like pick one. Right. You know what I mean? Pick a side. You can't have all of them. Just because they annoy liberals doesn't mean you should have it on your truck.
Exactly.
And I think it's those people who are responsible for our lack of gun rights. It's like those kind of guys who drive big trucks and have beards. They love LARPing with a Hawaiian shirt and their body armor outside the Capitol, but none of them are really prepared to die for their Second Amendment rights.
Anthony, did you just say that you shouldn't put on bumper stickers that purposely trigger liberals? Don't you have a few on there?
So I do. But like I said, I'm prepared to stand by all those things. Okay, I haven't got like 5 different ones on there trying to appease different groups. I have my stickers, and they know what they mean. The cops know who I am when they follow behind me.
Okay, let's change gears a little bit. Let's talk about the Secret Service. So Secret Service inserted itself into a case of Hunter Biden's gun. So on October 23rd, 2018, President Joe Biden's son Hunter and daughter-in-law Haley were involved in a bizarre incident in which Haley took Hunter's gun and threw it in a trash can behind a grocery store, only to return later to find it gone. Well, Delaware police began investigating, concerned that the trash can was across from a high school and that the missing gun could be used in a crime. So according to law enforcement officials and a copy of the police report obtained by Politico. So basically, but a curious thing happened at the time. So Secret Service agents approached the owner of the store where Hunter bought the gun and asked to take the paperwork involving the sale, according to two people, one of whom has firsthand knowledge of the episode, and the other was briefed by a Secret Service agent after the fact. The gun store owner refused to supply the paperwork, suspecting that the Secret Service officers wanted to hide Hunter's ownership of the missing gun in case it were to be involved in a crime. The two people said the owner, Ron Palmieri, later turned over the papers to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosive, which oversees federal gun laws. The Secret Service says it has no record of its agents investigating the incident, and Joe Biden, and was not under protection at the time, said through a spokesperson who has no knowledge of any Secret Service involvement.
$20 says that gun store owner is going to be dead by the end of the year.
Son of a...
Suicide. He's going to have 2 bullets in the back of his head, guaranteed.
Don't say that.
Come on, that's how they deal with them. Come on, we know what the Clinton body count is. Right. The Bidens aren't far behind.
All right, real quick. So Biden administration urges Supreme Court to let cops enter homes and seize guns without a warrant. What do you think about that? So the U.S. Supreme Court on Wednesday will hear oral arguments in a case of Canali and Strom, a case that could have sweeping consequences for policing, due process, and mental health, with the Biden administration and attorneys general for 9 states urging the high court to uphold warrantless gun confiscation. But what would ultimately become a major Fourth Amendment case began with an elderly couple's spat over a coffee mug.
That's dangerous. That's real dangerous.
Yeah.
Warrantless gun confiscation. I mean, you're hitting a couple of the amendments in the Bill of Rights at the same time, right? Second and fourth.
But isn't this evidence to kind of back up my rather extreme view? Is that we're kind of already at the end game now? Like the fact that this is actually being openly discussed.
Well, we're close.
If we were in 20 years and we're talking about this in the 80s, this would be considered crazy.
Go ahead, Rhonda. What you got?
It is super surprising that people are discussing this openly after people spent all of 2020 rioting and protesting on the behalf of people like Breonna Taylor. This type of legislation would result in a lot more of those type of situations where we saw. And not only that, but the people in the inner cities are gonna get the worst of this. They're gonna get the worst brunt of this, where we're not as reliant on the sheriffs, where you have a larger police presence, right? Where you possibly, I don't know the stats, but where you may have more drug activity or the movement of drugs. And so that's where they're going to go first. To me, it's looking real second crime bill-ish. You know what I mean? It looks like another example of Joe Biden's going to come in here and do his thing where he's trying to lock up, more people in the inner cities. And my thing is, I don't think under any circumstances a person should be locked up for gun possession. Unless that person has committed a robbery or a violent crime, it's no reason why for simply owning this tool, having it on me, I haven't hurt anybody, no crime, no violent act has actually been committed. Now the state gets to kidnap me and lock the door and throw the key away, right? Because I had this tool. Why do people think that's okay? I just don't get it.
And thank you, Rhonda Mary. That's Rhonda Mary, gun rights activist out of Mississippi and YouTuber. As always, more guns equals less crime. You go out there and you buy yourself a gun. You've been listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.